Hey, what's up Exiles, and welcome back to my 3.9 Molten Strike Juggernaut Ultra Tank build update. This video will hopefully give you a comprehensive idea about a unique version of this build, a variation that is fast, cheap, very simple to make, and most importantly, very tanky. Which is good because 3.9 is boss hunting league basically. You will have to sustain a few critical hits here and there. But before we begin, here are a few reasons why I think you should give this build a try. First of all, it only uses unique items as its best in slot option. So if you are someone who hates wasting half of his time trading, just like me, or someone who just wants to skip the boring parts and spend his time chasing bosses, this build is your best pick as trading unique items is an easy task and fast one. Also, this build can clear any map of any tier, as you can see in the background, which by the way I'm only doing tier 15 plus red maps. And finally, the build utilizes many interactions between some of its items and passive tree nodes to achieve near immortality despite only having 10,000-ish energy shield. For example, we utilizes the interaction between Chaos Inoculation and Incandescent Heart chest piece. Also, we stack mana and use Memory Vault, and so on. All that in conjunction with being a Juggernaut, and you get the perfect catalyst for killing bosses. If all of this caught your interest, then you might want to stay tuned for the rest of this video.
Force my hand again, little loves. So weird. You've chosen to side with chaos. This is my world, and you shall obey my order.
Quickly!
Embraced by misery. Gaze into the abyss. Gaze into the abyss. misery. Embraced by misery.
Stay close. We need to
Irrelevant!
Alright then, now let's talk about the actual build. But before that, if you tried this build and maybe liked it, please make sure to like and subscribe. I will have more update videos for this particular build and other cool ones in the future. So yeah, don't forget about that. And one more thing, if this build isn't particularly new, I'm actually updating it right now. So if you have seen the build overview for this build like in the previous league, then you might want to maybe read the description first. I have quick notes over there telling you what are basically the changes, and perhaps you just want to check the link for the passive tree and the changes and stuff. But if you are new, we start with items first, because this build is basically made around a few items. It wouldn't make sense to start with the passive tree, because the passive tree is centered around mainly our weapons, which is dual wielding, hand of wisdom and action, of course. This item in particular adds lightning damage to attacks with intelligence and increased attack speed with 25 dexterity, and just gives you increased attributes for dexterity and intelligence. So we basically just dual wield two of these and increase our mainly intelligence. And we as a Juggernaut, we have a good use of the rest of our attributes, so I will get to how in the next few segments. But for now, you get the idea that we need dex and intelligence to basically get more damage and attack speed. So you want to dual wield these. It's ideal because you can use shield. Shield will increase your, let's say your maximum energy shield by like 10 to 15% overall, but it isn't really worth it because your damage will drop by around 30%, which is like, that's a lot. So the build is already tanky, but if you want to be in optimal state between damage and tankiness, then you really want to dual wield these. So yeah, double hand of wisdom and action, unique weapon. Now for our next core item, we have Shaper's Touch. Now this one is pretty unique because it actually doubles the benefits of your total attributes. So 1 point of intelligence will now give you the additional benefits of dexterity. Dexterity will now give you the additional benefits of strength, and strength will now give you the additional benefits of intelligence. Now we are only talking about the passive, benefits of the attributes. So for example, if I have 1000 strength, they will not count toward, the increased damage per 10 intelligence, but you gain the benefits of these strength point as intelligence. So you get energy shield and mana equal to an additional 1000 intelligence points. So in our case, we have almost 1500 intelligence, which now count as an additional 1500 dexterity, which is good because that gives us some accuracy rating. This is good on the long run. I will talk about how we utilize this to gain more damage. Dexterity gives us the benefits of strength, and our 600 and almost 50-ish point of strength now gives us additional, additional energy shield and mana equal to 6050 in intelligence, like that. So this is how the items work basically. I have it with the cursed enemies with level, something elemental weakness on hit, because that's easy to get and not very expensive. And since we are stacking attributes, this will be our piston slot option for our gloves slot. So yeah. Next, we have another core item, which is Astromantis. This one is basically free attributes, plus 16 as an implicit and plus up to 100 plus as an explicit, all attributes. So this is Bastion slot option as an amulet. And for rings, we have double Leahy of All, because this ring can give you up to 30 plus all attributes and increased damage and all elemental resistances. We don't care about rarity. Try to have as high rolls on these, especially attributes, then all elemental resistances as possible, and maybe get one with, you know, implicit attribute double corruption, you know, just like me. It's not very hard to get something like this, but, you know, without the corruption it will be 2 exalt for good rolls, and with the corruption it will be up to 5 exalts, but can be lower or higher depending on your luck. The original implicit isn't that good, so, you know, that can be your late game upgrade option for the ring items. Next we have Incandescent Heart. This is a great item because it allows us to basically mitigate 25% of incoming elemental damage hits, because you take them as chaos damage, and with chaos inoculation you don't take any chaos damage. So that's 25% elemental damage reduction from anything that hits you, which means that it has to take not damage over time. And it also gives you 20% elemental damage as extra chaos damage, which in our case, since we only deal lightning damage because of our, you know, the mod on our both weapons, that basically translates into 20% overall, more overall damage, but as extra chaos damage. Now we have Memory Vault. Remember when I said that we gain benefits of intelligence from our strength, you know, mana and passive energy shield. Now we have so much mana because we're stacking attributes, almost 5,000 mana, so why not take advantage of that and use Memory Vault? And yeah, that's what we did. It gives you armor equal to your reserved mana, and that basically translates into 5,000 armor on the top of what we already have, which results in a disgusting 25,000 plus armor. So this build is basically mitigating almost all of its incoming physical damage, and we have a great way to sustain elemental damage with our combo, you know, chess piece with chaos inoculation. And that 10 increased mana reservation is not really a problem because there is a specific aura setup, which I will talk about later, which, you know, you can easily reserve 99% of your mana without having to invest into mana reservation. You just need, you know, one enlightened gem, level 4 enlightened gem, and a few adjustments on the tree, and that's it. So for your last item we have Cyclopean Coil. Try to have as high attribute roll on it as possible, and for your best in slot corruption you can have +1 maximum endurance charges or discipline, increased discipline effect. So that's it for your items. So passive tree, we are Juggernaut, so you start first with the undeniable. Remember when I talked about accuracy, which we gain from dexterity and the combination of Shaper's Touch with our 1,500 intelligence-ish? Yeah, that all of that accuracy now translates into additional attack speed, because 1% attack speed per 200 accuracy is what this node gives you in addition to 1,000 flat accuracy. And you get increased accuracy rating if you have dealt a critical strike in the past 8 seconds, and 30% increased damage with crits. So, and you gain accuracy rating equal to your strength. So all of our attributes gives us accuracy now. So I've checked that when I deal a critical hit, I have almost 12,000 accuracy rating with literally no accuracy rating on my items. You have seen the items, which I forgot to talk about the boots. We will get back to it later. But that's the idea. You can have a ridiculously high amount of accuracy rating just like by stacking attributes. You don't need to actually invest into accuracy. And taking this node, which can be utilized to give you around +60% increased attack speed, which is the equivalent of a 7 link on your main 6 link, linking it with increased attack speed support. Next you go for Unbreakable. This one is pretty straightforward, just like damage reduction, life regen. Next you go for Unflinching, which is free endurance charges, and you go for Undeniable. Unyielding if you want more damage from your endurance charges, or you just go for Unrelenting if you want to be a little bit more tanky, but the increased area of effect here really helps with the clearing speed or Molten Strike. Alternatively, if you want, you can just go for Unstoppable, because, you know, that's just makes mapping a lot faster, and you can't be stopped basically. So the main idea behind the tree is attributes, damage, attack speed whenever possible, and jewel sockets. Now there's really one jewel that you must have, which is Wildfire. It increases the amount of projectiles Molten Strike fire by 2. You can't play Molten Strike any of its variation without this jewel. But this time you need to have 1% reduced mana reservation on it, otherwise you will not have enough mana for this build. So that goes for like 10 Chaos Orb, which is almost free. If you took Unstoppable, feel free to drop Unweaving Stance because you can't be stunned inherently from it. We take Attribute Clusters from here, mainly because they have Intelligence, but we also, you know, boosting Dexterity increases our lowest attribute, which gives us increased damage from our Cycloping Coil. And when you increase Dexterity, you want to go up with your Strength, just to make sure that your Strength is higher than your Dexterity. Because that makes you can't be ignited, and also you can't be shocked because your intelligence is basically your highest attribute. It will be always like that, but having optionally strength higher than dexterity will make you immune to ignite, so that's nice to have. So as long as your strength is higher than your dexterity, feel free to invest into dexterity nodes. If not, then take an additional strength nodes. But aside from that, intelligence clusters are very important to take, like both this and this. The rest are pretty far, so we don't go for them. Next we go top because that's where most of the intelligence comes from. But along the way we take these 4 keystones. Take this your way from here. Just keep going up. Take the nodes here that scales both mana and energy shield. Take Elemental Overload because we don't really have space to invest into crits in addition to attributes. That requires too many points. You will need like 150 levels on the tree to be effective with critical strikes, or like you would need to have crazy rare items with crit and crit multi, which we don't go for. We have only unique items. We take jewel sockets here, here, and here. You now for the mods that you want on your jewel sockets. On your jewels, you want double attribute suffix, attack speed and attack damage as a prefix. That's your ideal jewel. And the ideal mods that you want as your prefixes are increased attack speed with claws. The one I have over here, which goes up to 8%. And you can have mana if you can't have damage and attack speed together. You can have increased lightning damage with increased energy shield. You can have increased damage while dual wielding. You can have increased damage with one-handed melee weapons as a prefix. I think that was a suffix. Anyway, you can have increased damage and attack speed as a prefix, or you can have increased maximum energy shield, increased mana, or just increased lightning damage. These are the mods you want on your jewels. Aside from your unique jewel, we have 2 other unique jewels. One of them is optional. The other one is not optional. The optional one is Emperor's Mastery. This one gives you plus 7% increased attributes and 5% increased global defenses, which is 5% energy shield, armor, and evasion. We mostly care about energy shield and armor, but the 7% increased attributes on a jewel, that's very powerful. And you want to get this as an end game upgrade, but using a normal 4-modded jewel here will be just as good damage wise. It's better damage wise, but it will give you like 300 less energy shield. But still, it's using a 4-modded jewel with perfect mods will be almost just as good as Emperor's Mastery. This one can be very expensive in League, so only go for it if it's literally the last upgrade you will do on this build after like you reached level 100. The not optional jewel is a Watcher's Eye, of course, which sadly now they are harder to obtain after 3.9 update. And that's the biggest downside of this build, is that it actually needs a pretty expensive Watcher's Eye. You could play without it, but you will have less energy shield, or you will have harder time recovering depending on your situation. Here we have 30% increased energy shield recovery rate while affected by discipline, which is an aura we run, obviously. And 18% of maximum mana as extra energy shield with clarity, which, as I said before, we have almost 5,000 mana, and with this jewel it should translate into an easy 3,000 total energy shield. As you can see here, almost 3,000, 2,700 to be specific. So for your late game upgrades, I would recommend you to go for a single mod Watcher's Eye, which is the ES recovery rate. It goes for almost 1 exalt, and then you can upgrade to one with that mod and 18% energy shield for mana. And you can go for Emperor's Mastery as your last jewel, literally the last upgrade after you got all the corruptions, the upgraded Watcher's Eye, and the perfect jewels. And you know, just we go here, we take intelligence, we take more intelligence and mana, flat energy shield, and increased mana. And that's basically it. We take Chaos Annihilation, Jewel Socket, we go over here for some damage nodes, and we take our last Jewel Socket. So that's basically the entire passive tree, just attributes, damage, attack speed, mana, energy shield, and lots of Jewel Sockets. So yeah, let's talk about your gem links now. Your main 6 link will have Molten Strike, linked with damage on full life, because with Chaos Annihilation you always count on full life, so that's a free 50% more damage. We have Elemental Focus, because we're not a crit based, so that's another 50% more damage. Elemental damage with attacks, that almost 55% more damage. Multi-strike and Ancestral Call, that's your typical 2 gems that are always used with Molten Strike. Replace Ancestral Call with Inspiration, and that should give you an edge versus bosses. For boots, I never talked about them for some reason. Go for Centric, it's your ideal best in slot option boot. It comes with high energy shield roll. It's easy to get, it has built-in intelligence and 30% increased movement speed. And you can easily get this one and just like farm lab to get 2% life regen on it. Anyway, here we have a support for Link to help us maintain crits and thus maintaining elemental overload constantly and not losing it between every 8-second activation. You could rely on your auto attacks since we attack very fast, but it will not be enough to maintain crits 24/7. You will need, you know, a specific setup for that with increased critical strike support. We have Orb of Storms because this skill, you cast it once and keep hitting all enemies for like, I don't know, 10 seconds, something like that, 6 seconds. We have increased critical strike support with it, so now for me it has around 18% chance to crit. Added lightning damage and innervate to give the skill, you know, damage boost to be enough to kill enemies, shock them and kill them, because with innervate, if you kill an enemy supported by this skill, it will give you an overall buff to all your lightning skills that adds a flat lightning damage to them. So we tried to cast Orb of Storms and kill the weakest enemy in the back with it, shock it and kill it with Orb of Storms. This will give you innervate buff, and that will basically boost the damage of your lightning Molten Strike. So this is a perfect support setup in your boots for crits and for extra damage buff. In your gloves we have a cast when damage taken setup, level 13 cast when damage taken, or level 20 if you want, linked with level 15 summon lightning golem, or level 20 if you want for max level cast when damage taken. Summon Holy Relic for that extra regen, which by the way all of it is converted into energy shield regions thanks to Zealot's Oath. And we have Molten Shell. Now the regular Molten Shell will be procced with cast when damage taken, but the Val one you will have to activate manually. In your helm we have an aura setup with level 4 Enlighten. We have Purity of Ice, Purity of Lightning, and Discipline. Val Discipline to be specific, because you know the Val version is very powerful when activated. So if you went for +2 level of targeted AoE or Aura Gem Corruption on your Memory Vault helm, then you can go for level 21 Purities. This will basically make them level 23, which adds 1 additional maximum resistance bonus to them. Or if you went with 2% life regen, just go for level 20 Aura setup. So it doesn't work with level 3 Enlighten unless if you take 1 mana reservation node on the tree. Until you can get yourself your level 4 Enlighten, just take a single mana reservation node on the tree, which I would recommend to take this one over here, because it's just like 1 passive point away from you. The other ones like this, you need to invest 2 passive points to get to this node over here. But once you have Enlighten, just drop them. In your claws, we have here we have a portal with Clarity and Blood Rage. And here we have Fortify, we have Whirling Blades, and faster attacks. This is our main movement skill setup, and that's it for gem links. You could put Fortify with Molten Strike. It will allow it to deal more damage with hits, but it will not boost the projectiles damage. Keep that in mind, because the projectiles launched from Molten Strike are not basically melee attacks, they are projectile attacks, and Fortify only boosts the damage of melee attacks, so it will work with the hit, but it will not work with the projectiles. That's why I prefer to have my Fortify linked with Whirling Blades. Since I have too high of an accuracy, Whirling Blades will have basically 100% chance to hit. It will not miss. So it's not just a movement skill. We use it to, you know, whirl through enemies and it will hit them, dealing small amount of damage and giving you the Fortify buff. So that's a way to sustain Fortify every 6 seconds. You just cast your movement skill once, even on a boss, just to maintain 100% uptime on Fortify. So you don't have to feel the need to put it on your main 6 link, and that's an easy way to sustain Fortify without having to, you know, make some compromises with your gem links. That's pretty much it for the items, gem links, passive tree. Now this build, the upgradability of this build is pretty nice. You can have white sockets on your body armor as a late game, you know, luxurious upgrade. This will allow you to swap gems around, maybe start using frost blades, or maybe start using lightning strike if you want, because this build, all of the damage comes from the attributes and the weapons, so it doesn't really matter what is your main 6 link setup. For me, it's Molten Strike because that's the best skill so far, even after the nerf it received. But you could use Frost Blades. It will be just as good for mapping, but for single target it will be very bad compared to Molten Strike. Instead, Lightning Strike can be a middle ground between both of them, but still, again, Molten Strike is best because we are scaling too much area of effect in this build. You could go for upgrades on your unique items in the late game. I have corruptions here, elemental weakness on hit here, +2 aura or 2% life regen on your helm, chance to block attack damage while dual wielding, and finally for boots I have went with 10% more quality corruption, bestiary craft. You can go with whatever you want, but just make sure that you have the 2% life regen enchant on it. The safest way is just to corrupt it 30% after you have recolored it to 4 blues. This will be the difficult part. Don't forget to do that before corrupting your boot if you have decided to do so, because then it will cost you almost as much as buying a new boot to just recolor the sockets using Val orbs instead of regular orbs with your crafting bench. So yeah, that's it. For flasks, I have Quicksilver Flask with immunity to curses and increased duration for, you know, easier and faster mapping. I have Bottled Faith as a late game flask. You don't need this, but it can be nice because it's basically 10% elemental damage amplification, or just like increased damage amplification overall, not just elemental damage. And the larger area effect created by it allows you to move around the boss while maintaining the 6% life regen, which can be very good because life regen is our main way to sustain damage. With Zealot's Oath, we don't work with Leech, despite the fact that we use Blood Rage. We have so high Fizz mitigation, so it doesn't really matter. The damage over time from Blood Rage doesn't really bother us. We can out-regen it easily and have a spare to heal us back. So this one would help. If you can't get that, just get any silver flask, because it also provides 66% life regen with its consecrated ground. Next we have Granite Flask to go to 50,000 armor basically, with immunity to bleed and increased duration, because we have corrupted blood. We don't have corrupted blood corruption or Wildfire Jewel. We went for the 1% mana reservation corruption. So you need to have immunity to bleed on your flasks instead. We have Silver Flask here. Onslaught is 20% attack speed and movement speed. Why would you not want to have that? With immunity to freeze, because this is the only immunity I don't have here. If you went with Unstoppable, then just get any other flask. And finally, we have Dying Sun for that extra 2 projectiles. Their effect is also nice because we are Molten Strikers. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the build. For Pantheons, I have went with the Soul of Lunaris, because when I go deep delve, the monsters, even the monsters' physical damage gets too high, and there I get easy 8% Fizz mitigation. It also gives you chances to avoid and dodge projectiles and spell hits as an extra, so that's good. For the miners, we have Tokuhama, because while we are attacking with Molten Strike, we like to stay stationary, so that's that keeps building up fizz reduction and life regen over the next 4 seconds, up to 2% life regen and 8% total fizz mitigation. So you will rarely move while hitting a boss. You will just like Whirling Blade, attack for 6 seconds, and then Whirling Blade again. Unless the boss is like very deadly, like end game bosses, then you really can't benefit too much from the minor Pantheon bonus. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the build. If you guys like the video, feel free to comment, tell me the good parts about this build, or just like hit me up with whatever suggestion you have, criticism. I take it all, I read all the comments. So yeah, thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.